Hello and welcome back to Bookish and welcome back to my Saturday Hodgepodge, my weekly wrap up of all things books, booktube, bookish stuff, anything else I really want to talk about. I thought I'd start off this week with my weekly reads. Finished two books this week. The first of those books was this book, Polar Vortex, by Matthew Mather. This was a gift from my daughter for Christmas. And I read it this week and I really kind of liked it. Now I believe Mr. Mather is a self-published author who does his own promotion and does all the work of putting these books together. And I thought this was really quite good. There were only a few moments where I thought the writing became a little too cliched. The plot really of a thriller without giving too much away. A man and his young daughter, I believe she's around the age of 5 or so, get on an airplane in Hong Kong that's going to fly over the North Pole and land in New York, and the plane crashes, and there are all kinds of mysterious people on board the plane and all kinds of conspiracy theories about what brought the plane down, why the plane crashed, where they are. You get a little bit of mystery, you get a little bit of thriller, you get polar bears, you get strange Russian commandos showing up, you get survival story on the ice in the Arctic Circle, and you get what I thought was surprisingly a realistic solution to everything and a realistic outcome. Not that evil prevails or anything like that, but not everything goes great for the people, for our main character, the father character here in the book. And I really enjoyed it. Again, I think if you're looking for some kind of thrillery book and to support a self-published author, I think you could do far worse than this. And the other book I read is one of those books I've had on my shelf for a long time, and it took me a long time to get around to reading it, and that is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. This is the first Maggie O'Farrell novel I've read. This was widely praised on BookTube. I'm sure it won awards last year, the year before last. I can't remember all the awards it won, and pretty much everybody who read it really liked it, and I have to tell you, I'm no different. I don't think I loved it to the extent that a lot of people did. This is just this is just me meandering about books, but I really liked it, but I feel a little manipulated, if that makes sense. So if you don't know, if you're one of the people who doesn't remember this book being a big deal, Hamnet essentially tells the story of William Shakespeare's family back in Stratford, after he goes off to become the William Shakespeare we know about. And so the story really focuses to a large extent on Shakespeare's wife, Anne Hathaway. Here in the book, she's known as Agnes and not Anne. And I understand that the names were somewhat interchangeable at the time. And then Shakespeare and Anne Hathaway's 3 kids, Susanna, I believe, and Judith and Hamnet, who were twins. And the story really centers on one of Shakespeare's children contracting the bubonic plague and dying, and what that does to the family, what that does to the relationship between Agnes and William Shakespeare, who, by the way, is never specifically, I don't think, named in the book until maybe the very end. And it really is, I thought, a fairly beautiful story about a family and their struggles and grief and relationship problems, and it just happens to be William Shakespeare's family, and it just happens to be set in what is that, the 16th century, because other than that, the emotions and the relationships feel fairly modern and real. And it's not because Maggie O'Farrell has not done her homework. I mean, she clearly research the book. It is a work of historical fiction. It is set in a real place with real characters, and it employs language of the time, and it reflects the beliefs of people of the time. And that's all done very well. But like I said, I do feel a little bit manipulated, that we know that death is coming. We know that it's going to be heartbreaking when it comes, and then it is. And it's not that my heart wasn't broken. It's not that I was not moved to tears. I was. It is beautifully rendered. But every time I read a book which is focused on and kind of centered on a tragedy like this, I can't help but feeling like everything's building up, and every scene, every word, and every way in which something been put together has been built up to make me as sad as I can possibly be when I get to that point. And there is catharsis in that, and there is a strange kind of release maybe in that release of tension, and that kind of sadness definitely works for me. But I can't help but feel a little bit manipulated, and so maybe that's why I like it, but don't love it. If I can be as silly as I probably was when I was 13 years old, talking about the difference between like and love. And the other thing I will say, and this is just something that I find to be true in general about historical fiction, and this is not a criticism of the book necessarily, but more about a problem I have with the genre in general. In a work of historical fiction, there's you can almost always pick out the moments where the author says, okay, here comes the history, that I learned, and here comes these really cool things, and look at, the way, look at all these things that I know about the historical past. And it's not that it's not necessarily the story, it just feels like, I don't know, it just feels like something I can see coming. It feels like, something that kind of takes me out of the story. O'Farrell actually just kind of sometimes just says, look out here or something like that, and this is going on. And anyway, so it was a very, very good book, and I really, really liked it. But I don't think I would be in that group of people who said that they absolutely loved it. By the way, this book was a gift to me several years ago from Kelly from the channel Books I'm Not Reading. Thank you, Kelly. I did finally get around to reading it, and I liked it a great deal. So there you go. There's my reading for this week. On Thursday, I put out a video about what makes a great writer, or how do we decide who's a great writer. It's one of my kind of random thought Thursday videos. And I have to be honest with you, when I put out one of these random thought Thursday videos, generally speaking, an idea comes to my mind really, really quickly, and I think, wow, that's something I haven't thought about, or that's something I need to think about. And then I think about it. Oftentimes, it's something like somebody else's video, like was true in the case of this Thursday. It's something that kind of triggers triggers or reminds me of thoughts that I already had, things I already talked about, and then I just kind of sit down, I turn the camera on, and I make the video. And that means that they're not very well thought out, and I kind of like that, even though to a certain extent I end up making a lot of foolish mistakes and leaving a lot of stuff out. So for instance, in the Thursday video I made, for whatever reason, I just talked about great writers as only being novelists. And of course, I didn't intend to leave out playwrights or poets or writers of nonfiction, but the way I talked about it, it certainly seemed that way, which means, ironically, was excluding Shakespeare from the possibility of being considered a great writer. And of course, I had no intention of doing that, or no intention of excluding Shakespeare from that list. The other thing that happens then is that I put out, I think, oh, I've thought this through, or I like my ideas here, I'm gonna share them on a video. And then I ask for people to tell me what they think, and I read the comments and go, wow, these people's ideas are way better than mine. These are really great ideas and really well thought through, and people provide me with information I didn't know, and talk about these great things. And so I think, well, this is great. That's why I love those kinds of videos. But I always didn't feel like, wow, you're kind of like the guy who knows just enough to ask a question, which may or may not be interesting, but your answers are simplistic. And I just want to say I appreciate everybody's answers there and those discussions, and I hope that other people might make videos related to that. So last thing this week is that the musician David Crosby died this week. By the way, Gareth over at Books, Books, and Other Magic, I'm sure I got the order wrong. I'll leave a link to his channel down below, made a video essentially kind of a tribute to David Crosby, who was really meaningful to him as a musician, because Gareth is a musician as well. And I thought it was really good. And while I'm nowhere near the kind of fan of David Crosby that Gareth is, was a fan of Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Not so much Young. Neil Young always kind of bothered me. I'm sure that's not a very popular opinion, but there it is. And so I thought, in kind of keeping with what I sometimes do in my videos where I leave musical selection below, I thought I would leave links to Crosby, Stills and Nash songs that I really liked. There won't be very many surprising inclusions here on the list. And by the way, I'm not even knowledgeable enough about Crosby, Stills and Nash to know who sings what part or anything like that. But I do really love these songs. I had a cassette tape. I meant to get it, see if I could find it and get it out. I had a cassette tape of the best of Crosby, Stills and Nash, which I pretty much wore out. But my favorite songs are, no surprising, Wooden Ships, which just has, I think, one of the most emotionally powerful, or a really emotionally powerful lyric in it near the middle. Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, which is probably one of the songs for which they are oftentimes most associated. Then Guinevere, which Gareth actually mentioned in his video, but I really like the song, and Gareth mentioned that the song is weird, and therefore that's how you knew it was one that David Crosby wrote. And it is strange. There's an odd kind of dissonance sometimes in the music, and it's also though quite beautiful. Let's see what else I got here. Oh, Helplessly Hoping. You know, one of the great things that Crosby, Stills and Nash are known for, one of the things they did best, was harmonizing, just kind of really brilliant, intricate harmonies. Helplessly Hoping is a short song that has all of that in it. Let's see, Long Time Gone, also a great song that I have on my list. And then the song that probably introduced me to Crosby, Stills and Nash in the 1980s was actually Southern Cross, which I sang obsessively for a long period of time. And being one of those people who oftentimes doesn't quite get the lyrics, you know, at all, I'm sure I've been singing the wrong lyrics to that song for many years. Anyway, there you go. If you like Crosby, Stills and Nash, if you're so young you don't have any idea who they are, you know, maybe take a listen to some of the songs down below. By the way, sometimes the lyrics are kind of hippie, goofy lyrics. You know, I know that can be off-putting to some people, but it doesn't mean that the music itself isn't quite amazing. Anyway, so I'll leave links to those songs down below. There you go. There's my Saturday Hodgepodge for this week. I look forward to your comments in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching.